Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are on Module 1, Lesson 4. And our topic tonight is estimating products and quotients by using powers of 10 and their multiples. So we've been talking about these powers of 10, and we've already done multiplication and division problems. That's where the product comes in. That's a multiplication answer, and a quotient is a division answer. But our new part today is we're going to be estimating. So by using estimation or rounding of our factors or dividend and divisors, we're able to turn a very challenging problem into a mental math problem. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is we're going to be taking some very challenging problems and finding an approximate or an estimate answer. Okay, so remember, if it's written in green, that means you need to go along with me, and I expect that to be on your paper. If it is written in red, that means you can stop and just watch. Okay, so we're going to get started. So I'm going to start with kind of a problem. So if I wanted to multiply 11 times 365. So let's talk about maybe a word problem. Maybe we have a 6th grade student who is turning 11. And he's wondering how many days about has he been alive. So that would be if he was 11 and there's 365 days in a year. He's wondering about how many days he's been alive on now that he's celebrating his 11th birthday. Well, even though sometimes working with 11s is a little bit easy, that's when I have a single digit factor. But to have a 2-digit factor and a 3-digit factor, that would be pretty difficult to try to do in my head. But since our student or child just wants to know about how many days he's been alive, or approximately how many days he's been alive, I can round these numbers and come up with an estimate. So by rounding to the powers of 10 or multiples or other numbers with zeros, that's the easiest way. So 11 is pretty close to 10. Now 365, I could maybe leave because I now know how to easily multiply 365 by 10. So I would say that 1 times 365 is 365. And then I know that I'm going to need to add a 0 because it's going to move over in the place value chart. So that gave me a very quick approximate answer. I might have even said instead, I'm going to round the 11 to 10, and maybe I'd say 365 is about 370. That also would have worked. That's going to give me an approximate answer. So I would say 1 times 37 is 37. And then because I have two zeros in my factors, I would add those. So again, both of those are not going to be the exact answer. They're going to be an approximate answer. I might have even rounded this to the hundreds place. So maybe I would say 11 is about 10, or I'm going to round 11 to 10. And maybe I'm going to round this to ladies and gentlemen, to 400. That would have also been a possibility. So I would have said 1 times 4 is 4, and there's 1, 2, 3 zeros in my factors, so I'm going to add 3 zeros. So all of these answers would have been what we'd call like an estimate or an approximate answers, not the exact answers. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be rounding our factors for our first few problems to come up with an about answer. So I'm picking up my green pen if you want to join me. Let's look at our first problem. It says estimate each product. Show your thinking. So again, estimate means that they just want an answer that's close or an answer that makes sense. It's not going to be exact, it's just going to be close. And each product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Okay, so my factors now are 7,114 times 20. That would be extremely difficult to try to do in my head. But what I could say is we could say, well, 7,114 is really close to 7,000. So we could round that, and I would just leave 20 as 20 because it already is a multiple of 10. So that's pretty easy to multiply. So now using the trick that we've learned before, we could say, well, 7 times 2 is 14. And then I know that I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in my factors. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 0 in my product. So my approximate answer is 140,000. Okay, let's try our next one. Our next one is 1,009 times 51. So again, I'm going to look at 1,000 and say, what is this about? What's it close to? So 1,009 is very close to 1,000. And 51 is not a multiple of 10, so I'd like to make that a multiple of 10. So I would say 51 is very close to 50. So now I can easily do this in my head. I can say 1 times 5 is 5. And since there's 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in my factors, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in my product. Now look at, ladies and gentlemen, I put my comma too early. I should wait to put my comma till I'm done. So that's in the wrong spot. So I'm going to want to rewrite that and make sure that my comma is in the correct spot. So my product is 50,000. Okay. Let's do one last one together. So we have 92. We could say 92, we could say is about maybe 90. And we could say 396,285 maybe is about 400,000. So I now have all multiples of 10, and I could say 9 times 4 is 36. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros in our factors. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros in my product. And my answer would be 36 million. You might have also thought that we could have made 92 into 100, rounded it to 100, which then would have given us a different estimate, because I would have had 1 times 4 is 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros, which this time we would have had 40 million. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, before we go on, let's kind of think about a few of these. Now, let's go back to number 2. Because I rounded this factor down and I rounded this factor down, that means that my estimate is definitely going to be less than the actual product, because both factors I rounded down. But then here, for the second example, I rounded the 92 up to 100. And I rounded the 396,285 up to 400,000. So this means that this estimate has to be larger than the actual factor. Okay, let's turn the page and we're going to do some division. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, my pages are stuck. Okay, we're gonna skip number 4 and go on to division. So this time it says, estimate each quotient. Show your thinking. So that estimate means that they don't want an exact answer, and quotient is the answer to a division problem. Okay, so our first one says 129 divided by 4. Well, I know 129 is very close to 130, and I can say divided by 4. Now this is where I might get into a little bit of trouble though. So if I'm going to use the same strategy before, I would say 13 divided by 4 is what? The problem is though, 13 divided by 4 is not going to work out very easily because it doesn't divide equally into 4 groups. So I might want to stop and go through my times tables and find something that's going to work easier. Well, I know that 4 times 2 is 8. That's pretty far away from here. 4 times 3 is 12. So maybe instead of 130, I might want to do an estimate of 120 divided by 4. Because then I can say 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now remember when I'm doing division, my zeros are a little different. There's no 0 here in my divisor, so I'm not going to take anything away from my dividend. So my quotient would be 30. So again, if you get stuck with a problem where it doesn't divide easily, you might want to adjust it. So let's look at our next one. 35,471. Well, 35,471 is very close to 36,000. And this one, we could maybe leave the 9 because I know that 36 divided by 9 is possible. That's one of my basic facts. And 36 divided by 9 is 4. And again, ladies and gentlemen, because my divisor doesn't have any zeros, I'm not going to take any zeros away. So I would get 4,000 as my quotient. You might have changed this though to 36,000, and then maybe you decided to round your 9 to a 10. And that would have been a good idea, except what would happen? We would say 36 divided by 10, and then we would end up in the same problem as we did up here. So we would have wanted to adjust it to make it work easily. Okay, let's look at our last one together. 426, I'm gonna say is about 430. And divided by 64, well, 64 is about 60. So let's look at this and see if this works. Does 43 divide nicely or easily by 6? No, it doesn't. So what does divide nicely by 6? Oh, I know that 42 does. So I'm going to change that to 420 divided by 60, because 42 divided by 6 is 7. And this time, because my zero has a divisor, my divisor has a 0, 1 0, I'm going to take 1 0 away from the dividend. So my product would just be 7. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that helps you be able to solve some on your own. We are going to skip these 2 problems, and you are going to flip through your packet. You can use these extra explanation pages to help you if you need some more help. And your homework tonight is to complete page 25. So your homework tonight is to complete page 25, and remember at the very bottom, you should be rating yourself either a 1, meaning you need lots of help and support tomorrow, a 2, meaning I think I need help from the teacher, but just a little bit, a 3, telling me that you feel really solid with this and you understand it well, or a 4, meaning not only do you feel great with it, you feel like you can be a peer tutor tomorrow and help a friend. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.